Belonging is not just a feeling. It is a basic, fundamental human need that 8 billion humans on the planet share. And unfortunately, I would say maybe 30 years, workplaces haven't been places to talk about your emotions or to ask employees how they're feeling or how leaders are feeling. You don't deal with emotions. You don't talk about them. You don't show emotions. It's a sign of weakness for men. And I think Brene Brown would say it's a sign of imperfection for women. Don't show your emotions. But now I work in the space of coming into companies and tell me how you're feeling. Now, this kind of design problem solving for your culture, but that we've left your people happier because they have a better sense of belonging.
You're listening to Brainwork Framework, a business and marketing podcast brought to you by focus-biz.com.
Welcome back to another episode. With us today is the founder and chief experience officer of Experience Willow, Kevin Finke. They are human-centered designers who craft experiences that go beyond connection. They create unbreakable bonds beyond people and organizations. Kevin, so excited to have you on today. How you doing?
Chris, I'm so happy to be here. I always love being in conversation about subjects that I care so passionately about. I'm ready to jump in.
I love it. Exciting. We always ask our entrepreneurs about your journey. What were you doing before that brought you into what you're doing today?
Just to tell you a little bit about my personal background, I grew up in a rural farming community in downstate Illinois. In Illinois, there's Chicago, and then everything else in the state's called downstate. I had a rural upbringing, and I love where I come from, and I'm Midwestern at heart. And although my husband and I today call Atlanta, Georgia home, that's where I'm podcasting in from today. I grew up in the rural Midwest, and it's just a great sense of community and family and the things that come from that kind of upbringing. But I always knew in that small little farm town that I had bigger adventures ahead. I worked really hard throughout school to earn a spot at the University of Illinois. That's where I actually got my degree in communications with an emphasis in advertising. And I started an advertising career in 1992 when I graduated. The first company I went to work for, I actually interned at Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida, as part of the college program. And it was an amazing introduction to big business. I look back at it very serendipitously because as an experienced designer, you cannot work for a better company. They think about what the experience is and they execute on it in ways that just keep people coming back and giving them lots of revenue.
Yeah. It's literally that Disney magic.
It is magic. And literally when you go through onboarding, when you have an experience, they're very particular about the experience you deliver. They also are great at onboarding you to here's how we deliver it. Here's the rules for delivering it. Here are the norms for delivering it. Here's what you have to value when you're in front of our guest. You have to exceed their expectations every time with anything that you do out on stage when you're there. And I think it was coming from this curious space of growing up where I did and knowing the world was bigger. And then that's where I started. I just feel like it was literally ignited in me a curiosity to get into advertising and to do the things that Imagineers did at Disney. So when I started in advertising, I worked my way through several agencies in Detroit, New York City, and Atlanta. And I ended up on Coca-Cola. That's what brought me to Atlanta to begin with, to help start an operation here in experiential marketing. So we were the ones who worked with our clients at Coca-Cola to basically create all of their footprints, all of their marketing presences at things like NASCAR, that traveling thing that happens in the United States, and that big experience. If there was a Coca-Cola thing happening at that track on Sunday, we were there activating that. I worked on 2 Olympic Games. I did Salt Lake City as well as Sydney, and the teams that I worked with and managed, we created the Coca-Cola footprint. What was the Coca-Cola experience on site in those cities during the Olympics? And that's the kind of work I was always known for doing. I was designing consumer experiences. I probably didn't call myself a designer, though, until I actually started my own company. And I took a 2-year sabbatical from about 2010 to 2012. And I did a lot of self-exploration. I got really deep. I got back to my roots, literally. I created 7 organic gardening beds in my home in Atlanta and just put my hands in the soil. And I got on a bicycle, which I hadn't done since my childhood. And I literally just rode all through the countryside in and outside of Atlanta. I just started the creativity and the curiosity just started reflowing through me in a very unique way. And I knew that I wanted to start this experience design company. So when we got our start, one of the people that I had been working with at the last agency I worked at in New York City, this person came to me. I'm a chief marketing officer now inside 20th Century Fox, and we're launching a new Spanish language network called Mundo Fox. And it's going to compete against the big guys, Univision and Telemundo and our Spanish language media networks that we have here in the United States. And would you help us do what you do, but do it for us? Give us a footprint in the community and go to community events and do affiliate events and do all sorts of things for us. And that's what took me out of retirement to get this company started. And we did that kind of customer consumer experience work for the first 2 years. And we did some great work. In 2013, 14, we grabbed HBO as a client. They were launching their network in Latin America, and they were going to be using the Game of Thrones. And so a lot of Latin American media is actually purchased in the United States here and sold here in the United States for Latin America. In Miami, we created a one-of-a-kind, immersive, week-long experience, Game of Thrones experience, where we literally brought our customers into the world of Game of Thrones. Like they were carrying banners and we had characters from the show. We hired 75 actors. It was a huge, massive, immersive experience. And in 2014, it won the Global Experience of the Year. Here I was with my small and mighty team doing what it was, doing it really, getting recognized. And we've got something special here. And there was a slight turn in the business. And in 2014, 15, I met a chief people officer at a local company, tech and data company called NCR in Atlanta. It's headquartered here in Atlanta. It has been for several years now. And I was doing a little bit of consumer marketing work around the NFL and the Super Bowl for them. But in the process of doing that work, I met her. And she started talking to me. She goes, hey, you have a really big passion for culture and for employees and for learning and for problem solving. And I actually think you could do work inside our company, helping us with our employee organizational culture. And she's, I want you to come in and think about onboarding programs as an event or series of events or experiences. Think about designing them like you design consumer experiences. She said, we're at this place in the business world today where companies aren't just thinking about their customer or their consumer brands. They have to be just as concerned about their employer brands because they're not just competing in a consumer market. They have to compete in a talent market for the best talent. Because when we have the best talent doing great work, we get to our goals faster, right? Into our visions faster. She goes, just do what you do. Just help me market my employer brand, but do experiences. So we started off on a 5-year journey. And from 2014 to 2018, we did amazing work for this company. We won lots more awards doing now employee experience work. And today we have really gravitated 100% of our revenue is generated in this space. We help, usually calling on a chief people officer or even the chief executive officers of the companies that we work with. We help them set the tone for their cultures and their employee experiences. We partner very closely with departments inside our clients, human resources, like marketing, communications, even IT, because if you are part of shaping the experience that people have working at a company, then you're in the employee experience in the employer branding world. So that's what we do today. And we have so many projects going right now that are all about helping these companies design their cultures for more belonging, for more engagement, to get the best out of their people. And in return, they reach their goals faster, more efficiently, more effectively, and get done what they want to get done as business leaders.
I love that. An incredible journey, all the experiences, and somehow the direction kind of led you through suggestions and recommendations from others. I feel like this skill set that you have would be great. Can you mold that to this experience? And that was interesting, going from a Game of Thrones, the live action role play style, into what could we do for employee corporate events? And in my mind, I'm thinking now the employees are walking around with banners too. It's a Game of Thrones inside of a company, except that experience is a little bit different. It's about creating people who are excited about the mission or what the business is, or just this culture, having communication with our fellow employees and everything. Why is there this focus towards the customer experience when honestly, I feel most of the bigger corporations, they either lack competition or they just remove services and features and they're not really focused on people? I feel like, is this a trend or a change that we're seeing? How can we make more businesses focused on the people? Because I feel like that creates a promoter, someone who loves to give reviews and talk about the product or services they just bought.
I think as the economy became more of a service and experience economy, and I think also with the plethora of technology that has invaded the business world just in the last 10 to 20 years, I think the emergence of technology companies that changed the idea of what human resources is and the value that an HR team should serve inside a company. They are ultimately, just as marketers are consultants to executives, this is how we should market our products, or product is saying, hey, these are the products that will be relevant for our customer base, and here's our roadmap for that. Over here on the HR side, they're saying, we need the best talent in here to make all of this work so that we can do it most effectively, most efficiently. And so we've got to create an experience that attracts great talent And there is no other discipline at all in business that knows talent better than we do. We know talent. We've become, as HR people culture practitioners, employee experience practitioners, what we're doing is we're looking at the CFO and saying, we know our number one investment is talent. We know the number one expense of all companies is talent. A company that doesn't spend more money on something that isn't people. So salaries, benefits, all the things that come with having talent, that adds up. We're the people that come in and say, okay, you're going to spend 4, 5, 6, 7, 70 million on talent. Let us be the people. If you made that investment in something else in your company, let's say a piece of real estate, you'd make sure it had a good roof all the time. You'd make sure that it was compliant with all the laws. You would make sure that it worked as best as it could, that it had the best things that it could. We would take care of it. We would maintain it. We would help you sustain it. That's what we would want to do if we had invested that kind of money in something else. And that's what we do with people. We help you take care of them. We help you polish them and help them grow and help get more out of them so that they run efficiently and effectively. They give you discretionary effort, do all the things that we want talent to do for us as business leaders, and just create great environments that people want to come to and do their best work with people that they actually like being around.
Seems like a no-brainer.
That's why we're here. Literally, that's why my company exists.
Now, these businesses who are focusing on talent, are there businesses who are really doing things right, and what things are they focusing on? Or are there businesses who are almost repelling good talent, and what are they doing wrong so that we shouldn't do those things?
I think it's because of the stage I'm in my career and the stage of life I'm in. I've just entered my 50s. People are going to get so clear in your 50s and 60s of like who you want to be around and who you don't. And I'm very selective. I need to know, because I just know from my background and from calling on clients in a marketing or communications capacity, I know what happens when clients and their partners are on the same page, when they feed off each other, when they both see that you have strengths that you each bring to the table to create great. I just know how important that is. And if people are coming to me, usually they know they have a problem or series of problems inside their culture. Many times it's leadership issues. They just haven't nurtured their leaders or have the right leaders or trained their leaders properly. They're not thinking about the experience of being a leader. It's a very specific experience, the inside companies. And the better they're treated, the more they feel cared for, the more they feel connected and that they're empowered and all these things as leaders, the better they lead because the better experience they're having. And they know they're having problems. So if I'm going there, I already know through screening that I think we can make a difference here. Our purpose is to ignite a contagious curiosity that powers betterness. I need to know that the clients we have want to be better. I do sometimes have to get into conversation as we're doing things to say, you're not changing. You're not evolving. The data's not changing. I don't know what else we can do. So we either got to step back or you're going to have to push harder. You're going to have to try harder. You're going to have to let go of maybe one customer priority and actually make people and culture a priority of some part of it. And those kinds of conversations are difficult, but they have to be had because I want to do great work. I want to make a difference. I want to make an impact. I need to spend it with clients that are willing to let me help them make an impact. Now, our contribution is to ignite a curiosity because a lot of people will come to us and say, you need to create the onboarding program. We could do that for you, but let's talk about the talent you already have inside and let's co-create it with them. So as designers, which at the heart of our business, we are human-centered designers, which is a very kind of specific kind of design, but we create human-centered organizations and cultures and experiences by being human-centered designers. And when we take on any work, we're really helping them diagnose the problems that they're having in their culture with their employees, with their leaders, and doing that through a very thoughtful human-centered design process, doing empathy and listening work and listening to employees really about what's on their hearts and minds in a way that's very thoughtful. And then pulling from what are the true needs. And sometimes you do hear physical needs, but I will tell you, Chris, most of this work I do is all about higher level emotional needs. And it's whether or not you have a workplace and a leadership group that actually sets the conditions for things like belonging and engagement. Belonging is not just a feeling. It is a basic, fundamental human need that 8 billion humans on the planet share. And unfortunately, I would say maybe 30 years, workplaces haven't been places to talk about your emotions or to ask employees how they're feeling or how leaders are feeling. You don't deal with emotions. You don't talk about them. You don't show emotions. It's a sign of weakness for men. And I think Brene Brown would say it's a sign of imperfection for women. Don't show your emotions. But now I work in the space of coming into companies and tell me how you're feeling.
Right. How do they react to that?
But it initially very scared, usually lots of fear. What are you going to do with this? What are they going to say about me? Because you also have leaders who have their own needs. And some of their needs are, I want to know that I'm a good leader. When you have a group of people saying, actually aren't a good leader at everything, you actually it hurts your own emotional well-being as a leader many times, because we don't just want to belong. We also want to be valued and appreciated and respected. And that's actually a higher level emotional need called worth, self-esteem. And in the end, if you work with us, I hope when we leave that we've given you the tools, some of the things we've taught you along the way, that you can actually do this on your own now, this kind of design problem solving for your culture, but that we've left your people happier because they have a better sense of belonging. They feel like they found their people, but these people also value and respect and appreciate them. And we've put the systems and practices in place to monitor that, manage that with them. And we're leading with a culture that's more emotionally intelligent. It's more resonant. It's people are feeling better about themselves and their work and the companies. And when I get that feedback, we actually are. Look at our surveys and how people are talking today versus how they talked about 2 or 3 or 5 years ago. I know that we as a company are living our purpose. It makes me really happy, actually.
Yes, I know for all the jobs that I've worked, the ones that I felt more committed to, the ones I would go above and beyond for, are the ones where I felt appreciated, accepted, that I had a seat at the table, that they appreciate everything and they invested in me. They wanted me to be better. And that's when I gave back 110% back to that company, right back to them, because they were willing to invest in me. One of the examples that you shared was this company who wanted you to create the onboarding experience, which is the top of funnel. But let's actually focus on where this middle piece, where I feel like where the people currently are, and letting them develop and create this onboarding process. What better way to get the exact answers that you need from hearing from the actual employees? I feel people often miss this, is either asking your current employees or ask your marketing clients. I relate this to how we handle some marketing too. People want to go for top of funnel strategies, but focus on the middle where you take care of people, because that's where that churn is and that retention rate. It's going to be more expensive to hire someone new than to take care of what you have currently. I think your approach is it saves money, both short and long term.
It's amazing when you've been studied so much now for decades by companies like Gallup and Qualtrics. I mean, these global data companies that just have so much rich data around what creates a great workplace. When you look at that and you see how much more profitable, how much more easily they reach their goals and their visions, the things they're able to do to even take that brand into the communities because people are in their discretionary effort getting involved in causes and all sorts. It's just amazing to see the impact of when you just take a moment to step back and say, how can I care for these people better and the experience they're having? And how do I design a better work experience? Because I call an experience anything that leaves an emotional impact. If you have an emotion, when you say what are the best experiences in your life, it's because of the emotional imprint that's on that memory. And many times our brain actually is programmed for the negative. So many of the emotional memories we have are negative memories. They're not happy memories. Our brain wants to not have those negative things anymore, because when we do, we suffer. We have pain. And emotional pain resonates in our brain as physical pain. If you have people that don't feel belonging and don't feel a sense of self-worth or esteem in their company because they feel disrespected or not appreciated and not valued, not considered, not cared for, staying in the culture, their brain believes they're in pain. And when our brain senses any kind of pain, physical or emotional, what do you think it does? It's here to keep us alive. It retreats. It thinks about things that aren't the things you want them thinking about. So this research around when people have a sense of belonging, like how much more productive they are, because they're not worrying about speaking up, or they're not worrying about sharing their opinion and their crazy ideas. They actually give you more. And so that's like, in the end, if you're a leader and you don't want to get fluffy, then you don't need Kevin Finke and Experience Willow at your company. Because my husband laughs. He travels all over the world with me. And he's like, Kevin, you talk more about the F word at work. And, people, I say that and people are like, they think it's the F word, but it's the feelings. If you don't want to talk about feelings, then I likely shouldn't be in the room with you, because you're going to talk about your own feelings. You're going to talk about and have to listen to the feelings of your team, and broadly the feelings of company in general, other employees in other places. It's going to have to be part of it.
Yeah. And it makes sense because I feel like a lot of businesses are more strict. It's more black and white. They're on the data analytical side, whereas on the other side, the creative feeling, thinking kind of, it just doesn't resonate with them. And that sort of being uncomfortable, they don't like that. So if it's not the right fit, you want to work with businesses that actually appreciate the work you do and are willing to make a change and are focusing on the people themselves. One thing that you've been mentioning is when you're having this moment in 2010, going back to the bicycle and just putting your hands in some dirt, kind of getting back to reality where we are. Do you think it was both nostalgic in a sense? And can we learn anything about that for design or marketing or business to tap into some nostalgia factors for marketing or our audience? And then on top of that, do you think that nostalgia brings that positive feeling for a lot of people?
Yes. I mean, the job of all marketers is to strike an emotional chord. And you have to strike an emotional chord in your messaging that draws people in to get them to at least sample or try your product, your service, your experience. They can decide whether or not they want to come back again for whatever coming back again means. The deeper the emotional relationship, but you can't get to an emotional relationship if you yourself aren't willing to listen to people's feelings. If you're in marketing, you're going out to consumers and you're talking honestly with them about what they think about you, why they think about that, what have been the experiences with your products and services. A lot of the work we do, I just take customer experience tactics and methods and I apply them in the employee experience world. Again, I'm helping. Usually what we're doing by designing better cultures for belonging, we're actually increasing the brand equity. We're increasing the employer brand equity, the strength of that brand in the marketplace. Because one of the things great employees do who love the workplace is they go out and talk about you. They attract talent. And by the way, referral programs have been studied in recruitment. If you have talent that bring talent, those people are like 35% more likely to be more successful, to be goaler. They're better employees when employees are recommending them. There's so much data out there. I think that the journey you have to go on is you have to get comfortable listening, having empathy for, hearing thoughts, feelings, whatever. And then once you have them, you have to look back and say they're feeling that way because of why? Because of needs. And whether they're consumers or consumer workers, they have not just physical needs. Some products serve physical need. But most products, when you can get into the belonging and the self-worth space, when actually your product, whatever that is, makes people feel better about themselves and who they are going to be more loyal to you and keep coming back to you. You have to get into that emotional territory, but you can't do it if you don't listen, if you don't have empathy, focus groups, surveys, all those kinds of things that uncover those kinds of insights for you.
Absolutely. I totally agree. This all sounds great for me. For those who are interested in learning more about you, the work that you provide, where can they find you online and get connected with you?
Sure. I always love to build my following on LinkedIn. If you go to the formula for LinkedIn, put in my name, Kevin Finke. I'm the Kevin Finke there. I don't have any other little extras around my name. So please link in with me. You can also go to my personal website. I'm starting to do more speaking. I am an instructor and a teacher and a facilitator at heart. It's one of the reasons I feel so good in the design world because I'm always facilitating brainstorm sessions and all that kind of stuff. But I'm starting to get more active. And it's actually in 2025 and 26, a big part of my business strategy is to build my personal brand and what comes with that for the business. You can go to my website, kevinfinke.com, to see what I do there on an individual level. But if you're interested in working with our company, just go to our company, Experience Willow. You can see it right behind me, experiencewillow.com. And that's our company site. And you can learn more about the kind of work we do and the kind of clients we do it for.
Very nice. And we'll have those links available down in the show notes and the descriptions for everybody. What are you bringing to the table in 2025? Are you doing a lot of the great things you've already done? Do you have some new ideas or initiatives you're starting to put out there?
Yeah, I would say there's two things. I just actually took on a different kind of project where I'm actually doing design work, but I'm also serving as a fractional chief people officer inside a small design firm here, actually in Atlanta, Georgia. It has about 40 employees. And so for me, it's almost a new way of being, almost a different type of practitioner in the space by actually kind of leading people and culture strategy for this company while designing their performance management program, their onboarding program. I'm doing all their training and development for all their employees and doing different kinds of things there. That's one thing I'm really excited about. And I want more of that. I like being on an executive team, thinking about the health of the business and helping drive a CEO forward in their vision. That's been very exciting. But I think the most exciting thing is about 10 years ago, I was on a flight, a West Coast to East Coast red eye, and there was a German flight attendant. And this woman came up to me and started speaking German. And I was like, I don't understand German. She goes, I thought you were German. You have a German last name. And I was like, oh, really? I guess my background is German. Then she was like, do you know how to pronounce it? We don't pronounce it the way it's supposed to be pronounced. So it's Finke, not Finke. It means Finch. As a kind of the inner teacher in me, I thought I was going to be teaching kids sometime and students. So I wrote down in my note, and I think I have a children's book in me, and it's going to be about the rainbow finch. And his name is Finnegan. And I have written 40,000 words. It needs to be illustrated, but what we're doing is taking it a level deeper. It's not only about the books and beautiful illustrations that'll come with that, but we're already taking our content from corporate about belonging and designing for belonging, talking about self-worth and self-esteem with professionals. And we're actually want to take it to elementary schools and middle schools and high schools and colleges. There's lots of creative things flowing through us right now, but I think that's the one thing I have most excited. I think this is a space that's going to get us out of business, but delivering such important messages to our youth. And I would even call them early careers. I think sometimes our careers start in kindergarten. I've been known to say that when we start being pointed by our parents and teachers at the things we should become. And I just want kids to know that they too can be active in that. And when they know their strengths and they know what they really get excited about and how they feel around certain kinds of people, whether that's good or bad, there's things that they could be learning that will hopefully get them to their people quicker, whether that's through schooling or vocational schooling, university, whatever it is. But I'm really excited about that because I feel like this 30-year trajectory I've had in corporate has taken me here. And maybe this is it. Maybe this is how I'm finally going to find my way back into an elementary classroom. But it's all based on the stuff we've learned working with the companies and corporations.
I love that. That is such a cool story. And speaking of get me my people, what is a good referral source for you for those listening? Is it an industry, certain type of company, or they at a certain stage or position in their business life? What is a good referral source for you for those who are listening, thinking I might need Kevin's help? If their business is either in a certain industry type or they're at a certain stage of their business, who would be a good referral source for you?
When you say referral source, what I would love them to do is go to our Experience Willow website or even to mine, and my calendar is published. Well, you don't see my published calendar, but you can actually schedule time with me. I'd love to know more before just throwing out a referral source. I want to know more about who you are, what you're challenged with, and how might we help you, maybe others. I would encourage you to go to our websites and actually set up one of our discovery calls. We call them 15-minute call just to get to know each other.
I love that. That's beautiful. Kevin, I want to ask something about your years of experience, both in life and business and working. Over the last 30 years, trends change. Things are updating. Marketing and design in the 90s is different in 2000s, 2010, today. What trends have you seen changing, or is there trends that have stayed true over time? This is just the foundation of either great design work or great people work. Trends can't change the foundation of things. So any trends you're seeing, or things kind of just exactly as you expected?
Well, in the workplace, I think there's a few trends. The first one you can't ignore that is everywhere that's influencing business of all kinds is AI. So for me, it's like, what's the role of AI in the work that we do? How can AI be used inside the companies to actually make work easier, better, more efficient, more effective for those cultures? Because of all the other technologies that are spinning, I think that we are at a place in human history where it's never been more important to get back to being human. And I think a human experience is one that not only meets our physical needs, but it meets our emotional needs. And if we want the true knowledge, skills, behaviors, experiences that humans can create that machines never could, you have to care about the humans in your workplace. Because if you can help them be more human, they will give you more creativity. They will give you more analysis. They'll give you all the things our human brain can do that we haven't trained a machine to do yet. I think that's the ultimate trend. The ultimate trend is it's time to get human. It's time to get open and vulnerable and to make this better together. We all have to work on this together in order to create the kind of world I think is possible and the kind of world of work that I think is possible. So that's the ultimate trend.
I love that, Kevin. Great advice. Love you sharing your tips and tricks here. Before we sign off here, why don't you just open the floor to you for anything we haven't discussed yet, anything that's on your mind that you just want to talk about and share with our audience here?
I think we've had a great conversation. I've answered so many of your questions, and if I've piqued your curiosity, which is my purpose, if I've ignited a contagious curiosity, if you have a question, you have a disagreement. Oh my God, I love disagreements. I actually train people on how to have disagreements in the workplace. If you value things like diversity and inclusion, then you value things like conflict, because that's what diversity and inclusion brings is lots of diverse opinions, difference of opinions. And if you want to hear everyone's voice at the table, then you have to value conflict. and you have to work through that, right? So I don't care if you agree with me or don't agree with me, please reach out to me. Let's have a conversation about how we could help or a tip that I could provide you and move on to the next thing. But that's the one thing I would want to leave with them. I hope that I piqued your curiosity. If I have, please reach out. I'd love to help you power more betterness in your world.
Kevin, well said. And I definitely appreciate that analogy there. Thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it. Looking forward to all your success in 2025 and beyond. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Have a good one.